Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to bring you all back here 2025 for our first Bella interview of the year. I'm so excited to have Kathy Juarez here. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, thank you so much, Lucia,
Hello.
for having me. This is such a pleasure and honor.
We're so excited. Kathy is the owner of Casa Pup, and we're going to learn all about Casa Pup and Kathy in our interview today. But I just want to thank you for making the time to be with us and holding this space with us. There's a lot of things going on in our communities right now, in our nation, and it's just always so good, I feel like, to connect with folks and learn your story. This is what this platform was built on. The interviews were to like, who are those everyday heroes, sheroes in our communities, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the women that are rocking it like you, that we want you to share your story and tell us a little bit about you. And I know it's going to motivate and empower so many. So thank you so much for being here. Um,
Thank you for
so
having me.
Yes, of course. So, all of that to say, let's just kind of dive in and get started and just kind of tell us a little bit about you. So, who's Kathy Juarez and what's Casa Pup all about?
So first, it would be however you meet me. Some people know me as Kathy, others Catherine. So my full name's Catherine. I go by Kathy. Yeah, I have clients call me both. Um, and Casa Pop. Okay. So I'm Kathy. I'm first gen Latina here, born and raised in LA, native Angelina. I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
um, and my parents are both from Guatemala. So yeah, my ancestors and everything. So Guatemalteca, Mayan, and Casa Pap. Um, yeah, I wanted to throw in like a mix. So originally, it was Grandma's Doghouse, and that name just kind of came up out of like clients dropping off their pups, and they were saying, "Okay, you're back at Grandma's." And grandma being my mom. My mom was the pup's grandma.
I see.
But I wanted something more, yes, that represented us, but I wanted something more um, shorter, but also nice, sweet, um, and more representation of us, of who we are. And I felt like the name Casa was that. Um, and then pup, the cuteness of dogs, like at every age, our dogs are pups. They could
Yeah.
be puppies like 6 months, or they could be 10 years old and they're still our pups. So that's where Casa Pup came from. And yeah, that's a
Yeah,
little.
I love that. It's very homey. It feels very warm. When I think of Casa Pup, I feel just like accepted and taken care of. And so I think it's a very fitting name. It's very inviting too, and to want to, if I had a list of names of places to take my doggy, Casa Pup would definitely stand out as that like loving place for my dog, right? So tell us a little bit about Casa Pup, like exactly. So like when I hear Casa Pup, is it a product? Is it a service? What do you do exactly with Casa Pup?
So Casa Pop is right now daycare and boarding for pups, perritos, cachorritos. Yeah, so essentially that's what it is right now. However, I do want to, or I am slowly reaching out towards other areas with pups and people, mainly mental health also. So another thing that Casa Pup does is with our guests, if the parents approve, obviously, take them over to senior homes and just that being like a cognitive health to for them. It's good for memory. Yeah, and I guess I'll tell you more about like how that even came up too within Casa Pop. But as of right now, the solid base foundation is it's a family owned, family run. Well, I kind of just pulled my mom into the situation, right? But yeah, it's family based, family owned, and it's home based also. And our idea is like the phrase "Mi casa es tu casa," and that's exactly what we are. Home cooked meals for the pups, so they could feel more at home. Like in addition to the food that they already bring with them, so definitely completely different from all the other boardings. I did want that to be the difference, and that it's a representation of my culture, of, like, who we are, and Latinos are very home welcoming, and we want you to feel at home, we want your pets to feel at home, we want the pets and the parents to feel welcomed and at home and, like, safe. So that's another one.
Yeah, I love that. It is a very unique concept because you're right. I think about dogs that are get taken to like, I don't know if they're called like little doggy hotels or pet hotels sometimes, where people have to travel or for
Right.
whatever reason they need a place to stay. Like the way you're describing it does sound much more like this is a place where my dog is going to feel like they're at
Very
home. Like they're not just
good.
yeah, like different people, but same kind of like warm, loving, right? Like you said, the meals and I'm sure the play and all of
Right.
those things. That's like really important because some dogs are get really nervous, right? They get like
Yeah,
really nervous to be away or to be out, just
yeah,
depending.
and anxiety is really real in pups too.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely, really real. And so, I love how you kind of are exploring the mental health side of how these pups and these dogs can be like therapeutic, right? In a way, therapeutic and supporting of folks that need that extra like care and that security that doggies and pups can provide. So always such a great, everyone that I meet that has small businesses like you, an entrepreneur, it's like there's always that like social component, that like deeper meaning and purpose to your business. So I love that you're exploring that as part of this already amazing business that you have. And so tell us, we're gonna actually skip one of the questions here that I had and go to to the next one first, which goes along with that, the concept, right? Like, how did you start Casa Pup? Like, how did you come up with it?
So, yeah. So Casa Pop so in 2020, 5 years ago, my childhood home, I we lost it. It was my mom's home. It was where I grew up, completely burnt down, nothing left. And we had to relocate. And essentially, I realized that home was wherever my mom and my so I live with my mom. She's a senior. She's retired. Actually, right after right after the fire, I asked her to retire. You have this
Mm-hmm.
immigrant person that came in, worked hard, made her American dream, build it, and then that was her retirement. And all of a sudden, from one day to another, it was gone.
Hmm.
So I didn't want her to start all over again at 65.
Yeah.
And then I also live with my brother who's on the spectrum.
Hmm.
Um, and so basically, overnight, I became head of household.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't even know how managed it at 27,
Hmm.
moving forward till now, and I'm 31 now. And Casa Pup has definitely been a relief for us. It's
Hmm.
been an outsourcing. It's been therapeutic for my family, for my mom. My mom went into really bad depression. I mean, I did. I'm still going to therapy.
Hmm.
So that's why right now with the LA fires, I feel like it's very close to me.
Yeah.
Um, and we renovated a way of work for my mom
Hmm.
because she felt guilty. She felt like she wasn't doing anything. She felt bad that I was the one working and providing, and she said, "Well, I need to provide for you or help out or something."
Yeah.
Um, so first, it was just more of like giving her something to do.
Hmm. Yeah, like a
And
hobby or like
yeah,
an
yeah,
activity.
she
Yeah.
didn't wanna, like, knit, she didn't wanna hang out with her plants, which was her thing,
Yeah.
because she had her own yard, and now it's not ours, we're renting,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, so the pups was a way, like I always phrase it this way, like, she wouldn't wake up for herself, and mind you, she's diabetic, so she has to eat breakfast,
Hmm.
she wouldn't do it, but for the pups, she would
Hmm.
get up and hay que hacerles el desayunito, vengan
Hmm.
mis niños,
Yeah.
and she calls them my niños, and she would get up for them, and, "Okay, let's go outside," and she would take the dogs outside and get their vitamin D,
Yeah.
and she would get it for herself too.
Yeah.
So, I saw the huge change that it did in her, um, just holding the pups and
Mhm.
hanging out with them and, yeah, that responsibility, but also the two-way love,
Yes.
because the dogs, they're just so unconditional, they love you unconditionally,
Yes.
and I feel like we could learn so much from them. But yeah, so that's how I sort of realized how um, mental health and the pups were. I mean, these are things that we know, but
Mhm.
seeing it firsthand and
Mhm.
seeing like from point A to point B and how much it outpours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was very impactful for me. So, and I always want to say that or advocate and be a bridge to barriers.
Mhm.
And this source would be to mental health in our seniors, because I have worked at with seniors before, and I see how they're dismissed, or I see like there's that imbalanceness. And I
Mhm.
can imagine, and within our community even more, because unfortunately, mental health is still a stigma um,
Mhm.
within our culture, within our communities. So sometimes, you just place a dog there. You want to touch the dog, you want to blah, 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 and not necessarily say, hey, I'm helping you like build up dopamine here
Yeah.
and serotonin and everything. But yeah, so that's kind of how that came into place. And which is why like my logo is green. And I kind of have
Mhm.
one of my merches here.
Oh,
um,
yeah, show
but
it.
which is why this is like the mental health color.
Ah.
Um, so, and yeah, this is my first merch. I also wanted to like add an inclusivity to like merch for us Latinos and like bilinguals.
Yeah.
Those of us that are like first generation that are ni de aquí ni de allá.
Yeah.
And I realized that within it was only mainly English, which is fine, but I felt like I wanted something that would represent me and my culture and who
Yes.
I am and
Yes.
who my pups are.
That is so beautiful. I feel like your business, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you've threaded so beautifully the business side of it, right? Which is obviously generating revenue. It's part of having a business, right? But it's deeper than that because you've infused like your personal experience, your healing journey, that with your mom, and just celebrating the beauty of what dogs and pups can do, like the power that they have. And making a pathway for mental health and mental wellness along the way. Like when the way you illustrated it was just so beautiful to see how it's all connected. And we can see and feel really that it's way beyond just a business, right? There's so much more heart and soul that goes into, I'm sure, your everyday of what you do, but just even how you're talking about it and sharing why it was created, how it was created, what it means to people, what you see for it in the vision and the future is like it's just brilliant. And I hope that you like see that as you're talking, you hear yourself
Thank
share
you.
that. It's
Thank you.
really it's like one of those things where you say it's like so much bigger than yourself, and I do see that and infusing your culture and it's beautiful. I think entrepreneurs, Latina women in particular, I'm gonna say, just have a different way of looking at business, really, and the way that you create and the way that you just your passion and your purpose behind it. It's very inspiring. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. And you alluded a little bit to it. So you started saying, when you were a little younger, although you look very young, just by the way. Thanks.
Thank you.
But you so wanted to kind of like take it few steps back, right? I'm always curious about like take us back to little Kathy. Like when Kathy was growing up, like what type of kid were you? Were you kind of always that entrepreneur or that creative, or were you shy? Like tell us a little bit about your childhood and your background and how you grew up.
I feel like I've always been an introvert, but an extrovert with the right people, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been shy, but that has to do with a lot of how I grew up. But I did sell when I was in. So, where would you find Kathy at races in elementary school, selling chips and bullies and toys and seed?
Yeah.
And my mom has always been supportive in that sense. Like I remember we would go to the callejones in the alley in downtown and buy things in bulks, buy mayoreo and put gummies in like the little bags and like, all right, how much was it? How much am I going to sell it for? How much is going to be my profit?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that was me during recess in elementary. Took a pause in middle school, went back to it in high school.
So when elementary school kids were playing on the swings, Kathy was selling the gummies and the chocolates, making some money, girl.
Yeah. I don't know how or why. I don't remember. I remember got home one day and I don't know, I saw a need,
Yeah,
supply and demand.
yeah.
And I guess, yeah, I would take my lunch and sometimes people would ask, and that's fine and everything. And they're, oh, but I'll buy it from you. So then I started bringing to sell, and even teachers were buying from me at one point.
Oh my gosh, how funny. You had your clients already.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Well, you definitely have that entrepreneurial DNA that's built in. And I think it just manifested through your love for puppies and dogs and the beauty that they bring to our life and the healing power that they have. So I don't doubt that as you say you were a little introverted, but I feel like there was a extrovert part of you because it's not easy to be out there selling things as a kid or as an adult, I'll say, right? Like it takes courage to do that. So you definitely were meant to be a business owner today and do what you're doing. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always just
No,
curious about, and it most of the time there's some little story that comes out like that where I'm like, see, it's in your DNA, there's proof right there.
I mean, with the pups, I mean, it kind of just, I don't want to say accident. I feel like it's more so a pathway or a
Mhm.
destiny, or
Mhm.
there was some sort of calling, more like the dogs called me in the
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
Because it just started with wanting to help my mom, like with
Yeah,
her mental health and
yeah.
kind of giving her something to do. And then we got one client and then we got another one. And then when I didn't realize what it was until like maybe 2 years. I mean, I was shy about it. I didn't even want to talk about it.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't like publish it or anything. Actually, last year is my first year that I created Casa Pop. Um, the rebranding, but also the Instagram page. And
Yeah,
that I even talked about. I remember I met you all last year, uh, Bella, and I went to the event and I was shy to talk about it too. I was like, oh my God, everybody has like a legit business and me, I'm just with dogs. But they're amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And that's a legit business. I think we don't always that we do a lot like the what you have created is already like 80% done in terms of a business. Like if we're going to say like I have like this right, the other things are the financials, like are you incorporated, like those
Mhm.
things are going to help you grow and be profitable and all of those things, right? But you have it, you have the model, you know what it is you want, whether or not your goals are written down on paper or your plan is, like you have it, right? It's just making it a little bit more tangible, right? Is and it's a process. So the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial journey is it's a journey. It's called a journey, right? Because it's ups and downs, and there's starts and stops, and so I think that's what a lot of folks experience, right? And sometimes get discouraged by that as well. But and I want to get into kind of some of those questions too. But before we go there, I just want you to share a little bit more about. I know you've mentioned already kind of the mission and why you exist and those things, but in terms of the purpose of Casa Pup and where do you see yourself kind of going in the future? So you say you're kind of starting out. It sounds like you're just starting to kind of formalize, I'll call it, your business, right? The branding, the name, the marketing, and those kinds of things. Where do you see this business going? Like if you were to have this like wish list, or not even a wish list, just like setting goals in the next like 3 to 5 years, like what would you like to see Casa Pup's mission like really be about?
Yeah, so sometimes I get overwhelmed with where I want to take Casa Pop.
Yeah.
And I feel like Casa Pop has definitely taken a life on its own, and I'm sometimes trying to catch up to it.
Yeah.
But where I want to see ideally, so I did mention that we go to senior homes.
Mhm.
I also want to reach out to foster homes,
Mhm.
so that the pups could be some sort of stability for
Yeah.
the kids. So that's, and I'm thinking that's more so of like a nonprofit situation.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it's just all ideas in my head right now that I really do believe in. Um, and so that's that, and fostering pups also, because I honestly do believe that every puppy deserves to have a home, and
Yeah,
we all need a home, and yeah, and to feel at home and not necessarily in a crate. I'm not huge on crates either. um,
yeah.
so in playtime, free playtime, I that would be like the difference between me and like other dog hotels where um
Hmm.
you they for me it's a one price fits all
Yeah,
situation. No, yeah, there's add-ons here and there, but not necessarily add-ons like to play. Like they're pups, they're supposed to
yeah,
play, like that's within them. But
yeah.
so with that, on the profitable side, I want to have like a one-stop shop for everything. So grooming, play
Mhm.
like a indoor park situation where I could host events and like I don't know, do yoga, sound baths, activities once a month, or like have a calendar where it's all inclusive for pups and their parents. I know for me, when I go to a social setting, it's difficult. It's difficult to start a conversation. I'm the one in the back. Actually, I think when I met you, um, you were telling me, "Oh, there's a chair up front." I'm like, "No, I'm okay." In the back. But I know that whenever I have a husky myself. She's 10. We've been together all 10 years,
Mhm.
and I know that wherever I take her, I'm a lot more open to talking, and she's in
Mm,
a way my icebreaker. And
yeah.
I'm sure that if I'm going through that feeling, there's a lot more people that are also having that same sort of anxiety.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so creating events where people could take their pups and we could just mingle with our pups. Like I'm another one that loves to hang out with my dogs, and I don't want to leave them at home and I feel bad.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just home and they're home and I'm out. And with that worriness of like, oh, I got to get back, I got to feed them, I got to walk them. Um, so creating a space where you could go, I don't know, drop off your dog at a groomer's and have a pop-up coffee place so that people could go, and like a coffee bar, and people could go and drink their coffee while they're waiting for their dog getting groomed.
I see
Maybe
that.
a training place within the whole stop. And another thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of these things, but outside of our community, outside of
Mm,
LA, the like
yeah.
downtown LA or outside of South Central LA,
Yeah.
creating a spot where I don't have to drive 30, 45 minutes to get there and plan a full day just for that. Like somewhere where it's down the street and I could just go and hang out for an hour or two if that's what I want with my dog. So that's kind of, I know I just said a lot, but that's literally what's going on in my head.
Yeah, no, that's a great vision. I feel like you're right. You're not alone. There's a lot of people that look for places like this to enjoy their dog or to have their dog be taken care of again, or if they're heading out on travel or business and that creates anxiety. Where do I leave my dog or my puppy? Maybe my family can't take them. So like, where do they go? Right. So I think all of that is important. And like you say, not a lot of it, people have to drive far away to find locations like that, you know? And
Mhm.
so I think it's a beautiful vision that I'm sure is going to come to reality.
Thank you.
Um, being patient with it, obviously it's not going to something that happens in a day or two. It takes time, but building up to that and having that goal is really amazing. So thank you for sharing that. Um, Kind of going back to what I had was alluding to earlier was just I know we also go through struggles and challenges, whether you're just starting or whether you've been in business 10, 20 years, there's always going to be those challenging moments, right, in a business or even personally as an entrepreneur running the business. So wanted to ask you to just share what you feel comfortable sharing, one or two maybe struggles or challenges that you've encountered or that you've experienced, and like how have you kind of worked through those?
So I guess I have two answers. I guess the more practical one would be time,
Mm,
because I am head of household, and we're just starting. Casa Pup hasn't gotten to that level where I could just focus on fully in Casa Pup, but I do have a full time. I do work roughly 67 hours, if not more, a week, Monday through Saturday. So Sundays are, um, which is where a lot of people ask, like, okay, so who's taking care of my mom is.
Yeah.
My mom
She's
is
your business partner.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do all, like, the admin, the post, the here and that, and then
Yeah.
and actually, my mom kinda she has everything on check in the sense of, like, their feeding. She doesn't want me to get involved.
She's like, don't mess with my system. Don't
Yeah,
mess.
yeah. But, so time would be one. I know that sometimes I wanna create a post or do something, but I'm just so tired from my 12-hour day that
Yeah.
I just wanna get home, and then I still have to go home and, like, I walk the dogs, I help with the feeding, and so
Yeah.
by the time I get me time, I'm pooped out.
Yeah.
But so that's one big struggle. I'm still learning how to manage that, time management and squeezing in how can I get more energy, etcetera. But another huge one that in a way I feel like goes hand in hand is believing in myself. And I think you kind of already saw that little piece of me where I'm like, well, was it a business? Is it a business? And but yeah, it totally is. I finally thank God that I came started to step into that feeling of it. And
Yeah.
but definitely believing in myself, believing in my silly thoughts or crazy ideas or that overwhelmness of ideas that just pop, and stepping into that and then actually make them reality.
Yeah. And those are big ones. I think definitely you're not alone. And a lot of people, especially those that are just starting out, are encounter the same thing because most of the women that we support and that are part of our community are either have part-time or full-time jobs in addition to their business that they're either starting out or doing, right? And most of the women we again support are starting out. They're entrepreneurs, right? You're an entrepreneur and you created this business and you're trying to put all the pieces, the formal pieces together, right, on this journey. And so I think time is always a big one. Um and like you said, like that, like the whole kind of believing in yourself is something that's also very common. So for women that are listening to this interview and hearing, you're not alone. Time is always a challenge. Sometimes our what one of our wonderful Bea says is calls them limiting beliefs, right? Our limiting beliefs, or just having to kind of relook at like who we are and motivate like be motivate ourselves really and know like no, I'm doing this right, or I'm doing this for my purpose. Revisiting that why you're doing it, I think, is very real. It's a challenge a lot of folks encounter. So I'm going to flip the question into the other side of that. So of course there's challenges and struggles, but I'm sure there's been like beautiful, wonderful things that have happened. So want you to share, and it's on the questions that I sent you, so apologies ahead of time. But if you could share, like, one or two things like that you're really proud of, and that or like a plus, like something good that, I mean, all good that has come of it, but like, what is one, like a highlight you want to give about your business, or yeah, just something like what did I just call it? A plus, like a good thing.
I would definitely say all the amazing people I've met along the way,
Mhm.
Bea being one of them, and everyone in Bea, which is how I met amazing other Latin entrepreneurs and collaborated with a couple of them. My first collab last year,
Yay.
we did a candle making pup friendly candle event making party. So, yeah, that was my first experience ever doing a collab, and that was great. So that's definitely a highlight. And yeah, yeah, all my clients that come in and that believe in me, I feel like that's also been a huge thing.
Yeah.
In seeing Casa Pup kind of take a life of its own.
Mhm.
And yeah, basically and my logo, I'm
Yeah.
really proud of it. I feel like it really does. I remember I was still sort of doubting it, but then I just took the leap of faith and went with it and launched it, and it was accepted and received with how I was hoping everybody would take it, so I'm really happy about that, and, yeah, and shout out to my brand who helped me along the way, Ben.
That's great. Awesome. Well, definitely beautiful highlights to share, and we want to celebrate those with you. What kind of closing down or kind of coming to a close our interview, what advice would you give, or what counsel or tips would you give to emerging entrepreneurs or Latina women that are rising entrepreneurs and just getting started?
I would say, definitely listen to your intuition
Mm,
and have faith in yourself. Um, have faith. I remember I used to say, "Oh, there's just a crazy idea,"
mm,
or "It's just in my head," and just phrases along those. And honestly, I would say if an idea came to you, it's because it's going to be backed up.
mm.
I'm really strong in my faith in that sense. So I feel like if God gave me an idea, it's because He's going to back me up in it, or it's somehow. I always say I don't know how, and I don't know when, and I don't know where, but it's going to happen.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
so definitely walking with that mentality and that energy, and just again believing in yourself and believing that it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, redirection. And something's gonna come out of it. If maybe it's not exactly what you thought, but it's definitely an opportunity for redirection. Maybe it'll take you somewhere else. Maybe you didn't even think about where that somewhere else is gonna be, but it's where you were meant to be.
yeah. I love that. That's so true. And just being open to that,
Yeah.
right, is um, is also part of it. I think because if we can have a vision or a thought or idea, and sometimes we're met with what we'll call failure, right? We see it as failure, like it didn't work, or it's that self-fulfilling prophecy, like, see, I told myself it was a crazy idea, and it's like, but that you wouldn't have known where that could have taken you. It could have taken you, or maybe it did take you somewhere else, or now you know that maybe that wasn't how you could have done it. Maybe you could do it this way, right? There's always kind of something to learn from it. But that is really, really great counsel for women out there. So listen up, ladies. Words of wisdom right here from Kathy. So, as we kind of close down or wind down our conversation, I just wanted to open it up. Is there any kind of last words of wisdom, I call them, that you want to share with folks? And definitely let folks know like how to contact you, and
Yeah.
if there's anything coming up you want them to know about, this would definitely be the time for that.
I do want to open the space to say, and I say this to everyone that going through a hard day and can't have a pup or whatever. If you want to spend a day with a pups, mi casa es tu casa for humans too. So feel free to just come on in and like have playtime with the dogs. Like, yeah, the more the merrier, and don't ever feel alone. Again, going back to mental health and how like depression is a real thing,
Yeah.
and you're not alone. We're open arms here, open house, puertas abiertas, and um, yeah, just if you have an idea, just do it. I know it's better said than done. Sometimes you don't know how to start it. Just one little step, and they'll lead you to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, having patience with yourself, and yeah, so my contact information, definitely mi tarjetita. Pero,
Cool.
you could contact me on Instagram. That would be the easiest way, just a DM. And yeah, at Casa Pop underscore. And yeah, it's fun over there. Sometimes I look at my own stories and I'm like, oh, I wish I could go there. Didn't realize you were there.
Like, I did a good job with this. And so we'll definitely put in our YouTube and the website your Instagram handle so folks can reach back out in case they forget to write it down or they're driving when they're listening to this interview. But thank you so much for sharing all of your beautiful story, your words of wisdom, being vulnerable and courageous, and telling us about you and your childhood and how all of this was born and how Casa Pup came to be. I really appreciate you, and I know that folks tuning in are inspired for 2025 to build their business or get started or continue to grow wherever they are in their journey. But Kathy, thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
your time and your grace and your sharing. It was definitely appreciated. And to everybody that's listening, we'll say adios, nos
much.
vemos, and stay
Thank you so
connected with us, everybody. We'll see you.
much. Bye.
Adios.